Hello everybody, my name is Ray. Welcome to the Evangelical Dark Web. Today we're going to be spending some time diving into the Good Neighbor. I don't know whether to call it an initiative, a project. Either way, this is this program that has some dark money, dark connections behind it. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. I know I called this video Russell Moore is a whore, and that's, it's provocative, it's meant to be inflammatory, and it's definitely meant to tell the truth about who Russell Moore is. I think there's a lot of confusion about who Russell Moore is, and I think the answer is really quite simple. He's a whore. That's what he is. That is who he is. That is what he does. He will sell out to whoever wants his services. That is what he is about. He is a mercenary for hire for a lot of the dark forces that want to operate within the church. And there's really nothing he won't do. Like, he'll go on a lot of small podcasts. He'll go on a lot of big podcasts. He'll write for mainstream outlets and stuff like that. This guy will do anything to keep his name out there. And he's definitely a whore for a lot of these dark forces. And we're going to be talking about these dark forces specifically as it relates to the Good Neighbor. I don't know what they're calling it, a project initiative. We're going to look at their website, and it's really shady. It is extremely shady who Russell Moore is doing business with. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. But don't forget to like the video. Also subscribe to the channel. And check out evangelicaldarkweb.org. And if you want to support us, you go to the join section and you can become a subscriber there as well. Running a promo on enemies within the church for Zealot and Peacemaker class subscribers. So with that said, let's dive into this. This is a Good Neighbor, and what Good Neighbor is about, it is about getting churches to set up vaccination clinics on their campuses. That's what the Good Neighbor, I don't know what to call it is. It's just called Good Neighbor. Has a very cheesy 1980s, 1970s looking logo, if we want to date it. But it's a rather new thing. And Daniel Darling tweeted this out. Russell Moore did not tweet this same thing out. He did not promote the same event. But Woke Preacher Clips reported this on Gab yesterday, the 16th. And Daniel Darling is basically saying, glad to be part of this webinar on evangelicals and vaccines. And, he's promoting it as it's about to happen. It's an update on evangelicals and COVID-19 vaccinations, opportunities moving forward. Faith and community leaders join Dr. Russell Moore of Christianity Today and Pastor Daniel Darling for a conversation about how the evangelical church continues to respond to coronavirus. What have we learned during the pandemic? How can we best serve in 2022? And what Good Neighbor is designed to do is to set up vaccination clinics in their church. So let's just take a look at their website, because again, these people don't hide who they are and what they are about. So this is Good Neighbor. This is their website. It's a one-page website with a contact form. And we can just read the whole thing. The Chan and Zuckerberg Initiative, keep in mind on that, put a pin in that one, in partnership with the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities, Carlos L. Malave, I think that's how you pronounce it with the accent on the end, director of the Latino Christian National Network, CVS, Walgreens, Value Partnerships, and Public Square Strategies has established a partnership to support evangelical community and faith-based organizations that will host a vaccination clinic at their church, campus, or organization. The purpose of this effort is to ensure evangelicals have a convenient, familiar place to get vaccinated in order to protect themselves, their families, and their faith communities. Which is odd that they use the Oxford comma in the earlier part of this paragraph, but not in the last part. But I digress. And you can see the whole manipulation. If you're more familiar with your environment, you're going to get jabbed. Those who participate will receive financial support to assist with administrative, staff volunteers, and logistical needs. That's called cash. Medical equipment and personnel who can administer the COVID-19 vaccine safely and effectively. Also, well, that's less cash, but it sounds like churches will get paid to do this. The constantly evolving domestic and global COVID-19 pandemic presents a challenge to communities who are wondering how best to return to gathering safely. By making vaccines readily available at your church, campus, or organization, members of your community can be safely vaccinated in a place that is convenient and comfortable. And we want to help. To learn more about this program, fill out the information and we'll be in touch. So, again, that is what this is designed to do. This is what this organization is designed to do. It's designed to get churches to basically act as part of this Great Reset. And what do I mean by Great Reset? Well, we can look at the organization itself. Obviously, I think a lot of red flags went up with some of these organizations and things that I listed. If not, we'll just peel back a layer behind this organization and you'll see more shady characters at work behind the scenes. I think the Chan Zuckerberg initiative immediately stands out because of the name Zuckerberg. And if you had thought that that would have a connection to the Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, you would be correct in stereotyping that. And just to point out, again, Russell Moore and Daniel Darling were at this webinar promoting this event, promoting this organization and website. So with that said, let's take a look at the organization, and I created a very convenient way to explain this organization, who it is, who it's funded by, the organizations that are connected to it and connected to the people, and it really shows Russell Moore is a whore. So this is the Good Neighbor, and as you can see, this is a nice little conspiracy web that I kind of made. As you can see, Chan Zuckerberg is at the top. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, like I said, that is Mark Zuckerberg and his wife, Priscilla Chan. I think her name's Priscilla. And that's their initiative. And as you can see, they are in partnership, and they listed the Council for Christian Colleges and Universities. Now, that is a huge organization. That council is huge. They are huge. Basically, majority of the Christian colleges that we know of in this country, and even some seminaries as well, are part and affiliated with this organization. The CCCU is incredibly woke. They are incredibly on board with the social justice agenda and the social justice gospel. They are on board the woke train and obviously cannot be trusted. If you're wondering why Christian universities are entirely woke, that's one reason. So going back to our image here, Public Square Strategies, and that's a picture of Michael Ware next to him. Now, Michael Ware is a longtime political operative. He's a hardcore political operative. He worked for the Obama administration campaign. He's also one of the lead members of the AND campaign. And if we want to extend this conspiracy web a lot more to focus more on like some of these ancillary characters, Michael Ware was also had some staffers that worked at Docent Research Group. So there is a connection to Docent Research Group and Michael Ware. There is a connection between these two operations. And Docent Research Group, as we exposed, was one of the organizations that was behind churches that were extremely compromised on whether it be social justice. I mean, there's a woke church that was just using Docent. I don't think that affected their wokeness, but there was another church, a wannabe mega church, that was definitely kind of going in that compromised direction, and Docent Research Group was their path to getting ahead and being like the mega church down the street. And then, of course, we had a standard Southern Baptist mega church in Texas. Those were three of the churches that I exposed that used Docent Research Group, and Michael Ware and his operatives are definitely affiliated with that organization. Values Partnerships is sort of like a black activist group located in Washington, D.C. It sounds like they are somewhat faith-based. It also seems like they're very secular. It's hard to tell with them because they have a lot of clout with corporate America. So it's weird to say what Values Partnership is. Again, they have some clout. They have clout with corporate America, but they also seem to have good clout with evangelicalism and Big Eva. They got some ties with T.D. Jakes and people like that. So then we have the fourth name that the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative said that they were partnering with, and that is Carlos L. Malave, director of the Latino Christian National Network. And again, I'm not really familiar with that organization. That organization doesn't seem to have good SEO, so I'm not sure how serious of an organization that organization is. But this guy, Malave, has also written for Sojourners. Sojourners is funded in part by George Soros. So as you can see, a lot of ties here and connections, and I'm sure this is not exhaustive. Like Michael Ware probably has some sort of tie to George Soros and perhaps also the CCCU. George Soros has been known in the past to have evangelicals for hire, so it's no shock that at least one of these faces on this list is part of that name. Now, it does appear that, you got someone trying to target Latinos, an organization trying to target black people. Michael Ware is just your hardcore political operative. He's known for building very successful left-wing organizations to try to infiltrate and subvert evangelicalism. Biggest example to point out would be the AND campaign. And then, of course, the CCCU, which is a good feeding frenzy for future liberals and stuff like that because, Christian parents send their kids off to a Christian college, supposedly Christian college, thinking that they're going to get a Christian education. Turns out that's not really the case at many of these universities. CCCU is part of the reason why that is not the case. So as you can see, we can go down a layer. All those 5 organizations, including the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, are all part of the Good Neighbor, whatever you want to call it, program, event. And they have 2 whores that they pimped out for their webinar to try to sell their facilities and assistance for vaccines. You have Russell Moore. He's your big evil whore. This guy's been a player at this for a long time. I believe at one point in the past, George Soros bragged about how easy Russell Moore was. And then you have Daniel Darling, who has written for the Gospel Coalition on several occasions. Not super recent, once very recently, but not like on the reg or anything like that. But he does work for Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. He's like a lead cultural outreach person over there. So that's who Daniel Darling is. Not as successful or prominent as Russell Moore. And Southwestern is probably the 3rd most woke seminary in the Southern Baptist Convention. So it's clear that again, the ties are pretty expansive, but they're not exhaustive. And Southwestern was also deeply tied to the Ethics and Religious Liberty Commission, which Russell Moore was the head of at the time, and he wielded considerable leverage at that seminary. At least if the case of Bobby Lopez proves. So as you can see, Russell Moore, and I put the arrow both ways for him in Christianity Today, because I think Russell Moore is pulling some of the strings. Like, he's not, powerless in any of the relationship that he's ever been in. This guy clearly had power and leverage in the Southern Baptist Convention, clearly has power and leverage to get his name out there in different outlets and pagan outlets. So he has a lot of clout that is well earned, I should say. Not well-deserved, well-earned. Because he's putting the work in being a good whore for people like George Soros, for people like the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. And this is some major dollars that are involved in this. Like a Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, that's huge. That is Facebook basically putting their resources behind a cause. And that cause is to get evangelicals to take the vaccine when they don't want to. Or to coerce the church to embrace the Great Reset. And that's really what this is about. This is about the Great Reset. And obviously you have 2 organizations that are hell-bent on the Great Reset. And you got the, again, George Soros, and anything that's associated with him is Great Reset. And then you also have the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. Pretty easy to suspect that they believe in the Great Reset. So, again, the key to understanding Russell Moore is that he's just a whore. Like, he's not the player in this. He's not really organizing the strings as much as people like to think. He's literally just a guy that'll do the job that he's hired to do. And that job is subvert evangelicalism. That's what he's there for. And he'll do it for Facebook. He'll do it for George Soros. He'll do it for all these other people. But that's who he is. That's who he is. And Daniel Darling, shame on him. I think, he's just a lesser version, not nearly as profound, or I don't want to say profound, that's not the right word, not nearly as well established, but Russell Moore, clearly well established, and it really needs to be exposed that this is who he is. Base mercenary interest, and he will subvert the church however he can. And he has no shortage of opportunities in seeking to do this either. That's why he's going for this very little heard of event that has some very big dollars attached to it and a lot of corporate ties attached to it. And then who do they get to do this webinar, or who do they get to try to pimp out their services? It's Russell Moore. They're using him. They're hiring him to sell their services to churches. And by sell, it's not like the churches have to pay, but again, they are selling out in the sense that they're not being faithful and that they're pushing something that should not be pushed by the church. And at this point, we're not at the point where the church should be actively opposing this measure, especially, with the whole third jabs and stuff like that. It's time for the church to start waking people up that this didn't work. We're being lied to. And the church should be a source of truth. And Russell Moore will definitely prevent the church from being a source of truth if he has a say. So that's really all I got to say about that. My name is Ray. This is the Evangelical Dark Web. Again, I hope this was a very quick way to explain a very in-depth web of an organization that is Good Neighbor. And I want to give a hat tip to, I believe, John Swartz and Woke Preacher Clips for this topic. Just give a hat tip to them in this video. That's all I got to say about that. Leave a comment about what you think about what I think in the section below. Also hit the thumbs up button because that helps with the YouTube algorithms, because they don't want to have Russell Moore be exposed on their platforms. And have a blessed day. I will catch you on the next one.